What's wrong?
Oh, nothing. Among the Drow, we are taught nothing of other gods, and little enough about our own gods beyond Loth.
There are others besides Loth?
Yes, gods like Gundar and Veyruun hold some power, but Loth was the strongest by far, and forbids even their mention. Nightsinger is mistress of darkness and loss. I was born of darkness, and I have lost much of my faith, my home. Shar has returned much. I am grateful. Many of these gods are dead, killed by Loth.
Here the gods don't kill each other.
We'll discuss it later. Let us continue. Yes. What is it, my Miranda sins?
What was the Underdark like?
It is difficult to describe. The Underdark is a place of great evil and danger, but also of beauty and wonder. Would you like me to tell you of it?
Sure.
Drow is inelegant when discussing beauty, but has 70 words for cruel. Few of my sisters prize the sights of our dark world, but I ache for them. The underseas of Lara Track, for example, defies words. To sail across takes 2 days Luent to Linoin, east to west. It takes 3 days from Trazen to Wearnith, north to south. Massive stalactites shimmer overhead. As you sail, a bleak, dead world flows underneath. The playground of blind fish and fallen deities. I remember also the crystal spires of Ustlat, a principle of architecture. Living crystal pruned and guarded with gems in a master jeweler's care. But these images pale before memories of the Spider Queen and the worship I began so young. Beauty is difficult to find in the blood that I let flow. Let's discuss this later. I've said enough for now. I am ready to continue my tale, if you wish to hear it.
Go ahead.
I was but a child when it began. I was taken away, brought to the temple and attended to by priestesses. They took me to Erlengen.
Erlengen?
It is an altar of sacrifice, where Surfacer screamed in agony, for the pleasure of Loth. I was given a spider dagger to end his life. The human was but Kolgabus to me, but it felt wrong. His tears ran freely as he begged for mercy in his unfamiliar tongue. The matron mothers were there to judge. Obedience was required. Hesitation was death. It must be done, and in a manner that would please Loth. He screamed as the blade entered, and spit blood when I punctured his lungs. To the delight of the matron mothers, I pulled his heart, still beating. It is the Drow way. But that is behind me now. Let us continue our travels.
Yeah.
My brother is what finally made me break my faith fully from the Spider Queen. His actions, I mean. Saving me from sacrifice. I had begun to question Loth's appetite for power, but I did not cast her out of my heart until Valis saved my life. Valis used his magic to free me, and when my mother became enraged and tried to stop him, he killed her. Loth did what she does to all males who defy her. She transformed him into a Dritter, half Drow and half spider.
It's horrible.
I cursed Loth's name for what she had done. I renounced her with every fiber of my being, and she was not pleased. She abandoned me. I had no brother, no power, and House DeVir was falling. I was forced to flee the Underdark, cursing and crying the entire way.
Must have been difficult.
Yes, it was. When I made it to the surface, my hardships were not over as I described. It is so much nicer here. Would you like to hear another tale of my past?
Sure.
After I'd been on the surface for some time, I finally met someone worthy of my attention. He saved me from being burnt at the stake by some townspeople in Ammon. I had briefly met him before. He was involved in the Baal crisis. Baal was the god of murder, and he was one of Baal's many sons.
Son of the god of murder?
Yes, but he was inherently good, not evil. He saved me from the idiots in Alkatia, and I joined his party, following him for a time. Our adventures were very successful. He fought a powerful evil mage named John Ironicus, literally to hell and back, eventually defeating him not once but twice, and it wasn't easy.
He's saying you went to hell and came back? Like our oblivion?
Yes, after being killed the first time, we were dragged there with Ironicus, because he had my friend's soul. We defeated him again, and we were released. During all this time, I began to fall in love. But my fear of Loth eventually overcame it. Because of what we did, the surface elves even accepted me, something that has never happened before or since. We all became very rich, but several months after that, I was pulled into this plane, and here I am. Anyway, enough tales for now.
Yes.
If you would please sit with me for a moment before you retire, I would be thankful. I find myself uncharacteristically overcome with anxiety, and I'm not eager to be alone to the evening.
What's wrong?
I've been thinking of Loth. She was cruel, not known for forgiveness. I'm thankful she is gone, but something is still Veko. Strange.
Loth is dead?
When I first came to this world, it opened up Menvison, passed between the planes. I did not know this at first. It became apparent when Loth appeared. She came for me. My former husband and I defeated her, for she was in a weakened state. She granted him a spell and left us. She went back to her old plane where she gathered power. She wanted her revenge. She wanted my blood to flow, for me to die slow and painfully. I dreamt of my brother Valis many times. I would try and speak to him, but he was only a monster. Then, he began speaking to me in my dreams. He told me of the pathways between the planes and how to find it. It was then that I knew we had to rescue him. It was not easy, but we did it.
What happened to him?
After reaching the highest levels in the Mages Guild, he left Cyrodiil and now explores this world, off adventuring as you do, I suppose. I'm sure you will meet him someday. And my daughter as well.
You have a daughter?
Yes, but let's not speak of that now. Onward, my Mirandescents. Do you wish to hear about some of the other denizens of the Underdark?
Sure, why not?
There are the Illithids. Some call them Mind Flayers. They have an empire as great as the Drow. Negotiation is difficult because of their psionics. Their eyes are blank, unthinking. They have 4 tentacles that dangle and twitch over a lamprey's mouth. Their main goal is dominance over others. They delight in casting a spell on you to paralyze your body, then cracking open your skull and drinking everything inside it. There's also the Kuatoa, a race of fishmen, cold, horrid creatures, driven underground ages ago. The first sign of them is the reek of dead fish.
I wouldn't want to see those creatures.
Thanks to the pathways closing, in this plane, it is unlikely.
Alright.
Are you aware that despite our intimacies, I know little of you other than the usual graces? You have mysteries in you, and secrets. That face holds tales in its creases.
It's not much to tell, to be honest.
What about your time before this? Before the endless travel, days in the dark, and death at your heels? Who was your closest ally?
My space hamster, Boo.
What? That's impossible. Don't even joke about that.
Okay.
Have you given any thought to what you will do once this whole business is over with?
Take a shower.
Have you given any thought to what you will do once this whole business is over with?
Be with you.
You flatter me. I hope those are not just empty words you are spilling for my benefit. I have thought of the future.
Future?
I see us carving out an empire for ourselves and living in luxury. It is little more than idle fantasy, really. It is good to see that you have desire. Perhaps that is something I can work on. No?
Well, you never know.
We are to stop and rest now, are we? I suppose it is good. And well, I am exhausted nearly to the point of dropping.
Let's find an inn then.
Come then, my Mirandasins.
I'm tired.
I may be tired, but I look forward to showing the arts I learned as a drow. I hold a degree of affection for you. How else to show it?
Nothing is expected of you.
An odd thing to say. If I had no male to service me in the Underdark, I slept alone. I am unfamiliar with this. How else would you show affection?
I'll show you.
As you wish. I feel uncomfortable with this arrangement, but I suppose that rest is not uncalled for.
The finest jewelry in all of Markarth.
Is it time to awaken already?
I'm afraid so.
I must admit that I slept more deeply than I have in some time. I felt safe in your arms. A unique experience.
That feeling's called love.
I have to think about this. Love. I thank you for your consideration. I have an odd feeling. I have felt this before.
What kind of feeling?
The same feeling I had when Loth came to me here in this plane. As drow, we grow to have a natural tendency to feel rock and magic. And this feels of both. It is a dark whisper traveling over the land searching, seeking out. I fear it is looking for me.
Really?
This has happened before. It has the stink of Loth, but she is dead.
Well, we'll protect you.
A somewhat comforting thought, but she is dead. My first Mirandasins and I killed her years ago, during the Oblivion Crisis.
Been alive that long?
Yes, drow can live extremely long lives, if we're not subjected to the harsh life of the Underdark. I was there for the Oblivion Crisis. All of it.
Okay.
Very well, my Mirandasins. We must talk.
Sure.
I want to thank you for helping me with everything. I feared that I would never find anyone ever again.
No need. I'll do anything for you.
I thought it would never work between us. I think you knew this. It seemed there could only be one outcome to it all. I look forward to a life with you. Perhaps we will be a good thing, you and I, yes?
Yeah, I could think of nothing else. Right. That's so funny.
It is a joke I came up with after we saw that ranger in the woods the other day. Do you wish to hear it?
Sure.
If a tree falls in the forest, does anybody care?
I suppose not.
I am still unused to all this green and fragrant brightness. Part of me yet looks for the hidden spider's web amongst all this.
You'll get used to it eventually.
I suppose I will, though I am drow, and it may be a very long time indeed.
You've been here for 200 years.
It has gotten easier over the years. But 200 years to a drow is merely a drop in an ocean. The lives of elves and men differ greatly. A day to you is very special, yet brief. But to us, they are merely a second in time.
Okay, slow learners then.
Grass is nice. I used to run through grassy fields barefoot, enjoying the softness under my feet.
Well, what's going on?
Untold pleasures await you, if you would but submit to me.
Okay.
I must have you. You will submit.
Okay. Okay. Not quite the place for it, but
I was foolish and naive. Awela Jalil.
okay. What does that mean?
I was so foolish for so long. Instead of all the fear of getting close to you, I should have been with you. I've wasted too much time with my doubts and insecurities. I would have thought I'd be over such things by now.
Well, that's all in.
Yes, you're right. Let's make it a good one then. Come, my Mirandasins. I asked you once long ago if you saw any future for us. Now that it has come closer, have you changed your mind on it? Do you even see one for you? For us?
Rogue wizards like them
Of
give
course
good
I
mages
do.
a bad name.
I do too. I'm getting used to this world. Somehow you excite me, stir my loins, and make me feel safe all at the same time.
That's good.
Well, I think I can get used to this love. I'm wondering, do you ever entertain the notion of marriage?
Yes, I do.
There is no such thing among the drow, as you can imagine. From what you have told me, and what I have seen, I can picture us in such a relationship.
Really?
Perhaps someday, my Miranda sins, but the time and place must be right.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, we must travel to Riften and go to the Temple of Mara and purchase an amulet. Of course, there's no rush, my dear. I'm finding myself unable to deny your effectiveness in battle.
Okay. It is high praise from a drow.
I see you have learned much in your short lifespan. If I were ever to return to the Underdark, I would want you with me. I do not think that will ever happen. The pathways have been sealed. We can speak more of this later. I have been thinking about us, my Miranda sins. Perhaps thinking too much. Dwelling on such things leads only to headaches and confusion.
Okay, yeah, that's sort of what happens.
I suppose you are right. It is rather annoying, but I find myself enjoying the thought of you inside my head.
Okay, I thought you were gonna say something else. Do you want to do do something else?
I think you're right.
Viconia should have something new to say.
Tell me, we have wealth, a home, and many material things. Is there anything more you desire? Friendship, is that all? Perhaps you had better think further on this. You already have that, my Miranda Sins, and you shall have it forever. You make me happy, and I'm grateful. Not sure. Does my exotic form not stir your loins? I could offer pleasures you cannot possibly imagine. Come to me, and I will show you pleasures you did not think possible. Something is bothering you. What is it,
The gates.
Why not? You think this world is so special that the gods don't have the power to send things from one plane to another? If the gods can open gates between here and Oblivion, why not from here to Faerun? Or the Abyss? It is simply another plane of existence.
Okay.
There are a lot of people in both worlds who think theirs is the be-all and end-all. All are surfacers. Drow are not so stupid. It is nice to see you smile once in a while.
Okay. For Viconia?
It never bothered you how I left the Underdark, and what I had to do to survive. Why?
You just did what you had to.
I kept pushing you away, but you never let me succeed. You saw something in me that nobody else did, in either world.
Yeah.
Perhaps so, but I was not easy on you. I apologize for that.
It's nothing, forget it.
I'm so very glad we bonded as lovers and friends, you and I. You are very special to me. I cannot let anything happen to you.
Okay, Viconia. You want to talk?
Do you wish to hear of Blingdenstone?
Okay.
A city in the Underdark that was founded by Sverniblin, or Deep Gnomes, over 2,000 years ago. It is now devastated and in ruins. The Sverniblin allied themselves with the Dugar during the Battle of Keeper's Dale. House Benray summoned demons and destroyed the city.
Okay.
That is the Underdark. Now the city is occupied by 3 separate groups. They all desire different things, so they live in relative harmony. There are drow scavengers, most of who belong to House Duskrin. They are mostly harmless unless you get in their way. There are rumors of a band of Sverniblin were-rats that occupy the maze and entrance area of the city.
Okay.
They ambush and kill small parties that enter their realm. I do not know if they still exist. The third has been there for years, since before the drow attack. It is called Ogremokksbane, and is a cloud of sentient magical dust.
Magical dust. Okay.
It is an elemental. Any evil creatures it comes into contact with are driven into a mindless rage. All drow are inherently evil, but I am no longer my Miranda Sins.
Well, that's good.
Well, my Miranda Sins, you are very close now to one of your goals, yes?
I suppose so.
Yes, that is true. I am glad I am here to help, and I could not do this without you.
That's good. Wouldn't have it any other way.
You are becoming quite the lover to me, my Miranda Sins. But you still have much to learn.
Okay.
I have decided I much prefer your world.
Really?
Well, I have you, of course. But when we first met, I was always fighting this place. Now, I've come to love it. Faerun was never safe from me or any drow. Even Drizzt Do'Urden had his share of troubles.
Drizzt.
Another drow who escaped the Underdark. After a war with another house, he cursed the drow ways and escaped Menzoberranzan and the Underdark.
Yeah, I should meet him.
I've only met him once. It is unlikely, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. I think one drow in Tamriel is enough. With two, we could take over. Oh, my Mirandasins. You have made me so very happy. You have made me put aside my past and all the hurt and pain. I didn't think it was possible.
I'm glad you are happy. I am as well. Now, Kerwin's pushing us away.
You have no idea. Untold pleasures await you, my love.
Okay,
Lead on.
what about you?
These dragons are such a nuisance. I've never seen so many before.
Oh yeah.
There were dragons above and below ground. They were far rarer than they seem to be here right now, and much tougher to kill. Well, there was no dragonborn, such as yourself. And no shouts either. To kill a dragon took immense strength, cunning, and fortitude. I'm not saying you do not possess those qualities, but killing a dragon there was an epic task. One blast of a dragon's breath and you were dead, not like here. You have no idea how easy you have it here.
Okay.
You look like you have a question. What is it, my dear?
Tell me about what happened with you and Loth.
As I said before, when Loth banished me here, little did I know that it had opened a portal between the two planes. Loth was able to come through it. We had battled her once, but I knew she wasn't defeated. She never was. Loth's power was provided from all the sacrifices the drow made to her. She was unstoppable. Shortly after this first incident, apparently the other gods finally grew fed up with her, after she killed the other drow gods I mentioned earlier. Although they were drow deities, they were rarely worshipped except by rogue drow, or far-flung sects, which is why they were so weak compared to Loth. For her actions against the other gods, she was banished to a remote part of the Underdark. Her connection to the power she was feeding from was shut off.
She grew weak.
Yes, but I will continue the tale tomorrow.
Viconia? Is it the next day?
Are you ready for me to continue my tale?
I suppose I am.
Loth had declined in power rapidly, despite the sacrifices by the drow priestesses. She was weak and trapped in a mortal plane by the other gods.
Okay.
I'll get into that later, but really it started with my brother Valis contacting me. He somehow communicated this to me through my
Great, I
dreams.
could use a good nap.
My lover and I mutually decided to act, at first to save Valis. We entered the Underdark through one of the open portals, a cave in the northern part of Cyrodiil. We were approached by a drow house that was sympathetic to our cause. Their wizard told us one way to convert Valis from Dritter form back to being drow. We eventually did this, and brought Valis back to the surface where he was welcomed by the Mages Guild.
Okay.
Yes, the defeat of Loth. I will continue the tale later.
Okay.
Do you wish for me to continue my tale about the defeat of Loth?
Yes, please do. Please don't step on any traps. I think Mindus probably has light feet, but...
Loth was in a weakened state after being banished to the Underdark by Corellin for her crimes against the other gods. The matron mother we encountered discovered this, and wished to strike Loth down before she could regain any of her power. Because Valus so willingly gave his own life for me, it was only fair that we make the attempt in exchange for saving him.
How did you pull that off?
We had to return to the surface to acquire a weapon and shield of great power from Bothia. I did this myself. In exchange for the items, Bothia required me to perform many favors for her. Many were staying, or some were only deceived if they were lucky. I do not wish to go into that. It was a dark time for me. But eventually I satisfied her terms and she granted me the items. The shield protected us from her powers to turn her enemies into dritters. Without it, we surely would have been defeated and become her slaves. The sword was immensely powerful. Any other would have only wounded her. This sword was carefully crafted to work against her, and her alone.
Okay. And then you went back to the Underdark?
Yes, but I will continue the tale later. I grow tired.
Okay.
The journey back to the Underdark was long, and always treacherous.
You wish to finish the tale?
Yes. We made our way back to the matron, and announced our success in locating the items. She revealed Loth's location. Loth had gone back to her temple within the city in order to regain her power. If any later, we likely would not have stood a chance. Time and luck were on our side. We entered the temple and slew many of her priestesses and her handmaiden. Once the handmaiden was killed, Loth appeared. She tried to talk us out of our mission using her guile, but it was of no use. We had made up our minds.
Okay. What did she say?
I remember her words vividly. You dare come here and slay my minions? Did I not spare your miserable lives before? This is how you repay me. She then whined about Corellin. Corellin constantly spits on me, and for what? He has done worse. First, me and my people's banishment, and now this. It is true that Corellin banished the Drow for their deeds, but her other words were lies. She then began to admit her crimes. So I killed my son Veyron and my daughter Elistrael. She then excused that by saying, if she hadn't taken human form and tried to kill me, she would yet live. She then began to try and get us to pity her by saying, I was once Arashni, weaver of destiny, the consort of Corellin before he betrayed me. Yes, the fact is that she betrayed him, not the other way around. She is evil and twists her words and deeds. She then admitted to the destruction of my home city, Chednasad. She had abandoned it, and the Dugar and the Jaezrid Chausin destroyed it. After a fierce battle, we killed her and freed the Drow from her evil grip. Once we returned, the paths through the two planes were sealed forever. So that's the story, more or less. Remembering her words fills me with hate. Let us forget it. So, that's the story, more or less. Remembering her words fills me with hate. Let us forget it.
There's an echo in here. You're completed?
What I have told you. Many were slain by the Drow to conceal the information.
What do you mean?
We found a book throughout those days during the Oblivion Crisis. It described how through deceit and domination, she won over the Drow. As I've said before, the Drow grew strong in the Underdark, infiltrating and dominating the subterranean environment with zealous fervor. Loth's worship became paramount to the power-hungry, status-obsessed Drow, and the Spider Queen flourished as we grew in power. It also detailed some of what is known as the Baal Crisis that I described to you before. Loth grew to fear my power. Apparently she was afraid of me, although I cannot see why, and thus banished me to Tamriel. Loth's manipulation of the planes caused a weakness to develop. She used these new weaknesses to start building links from the Underdark to Tamriel. In fact, she was hoping to take over Tamriel as a new feeding ground for the Drow.
Okay.
Certainly not. Fortunately, the Seldarine discovered her plot.
The Seldarine?
The upper echelon gods. They became tired of her war on the surface elves, the murder of many gods, and all of her other schemes. The Seldarine finally tired of Loth. Corellin banished her completely to Tamriel to face justice. According to the book, this was the source of much rejoicing on the original plane, Faerun. But all of Tamriel was completely unaware of this. And so the rest was history, as they say.
As they say. Okay.